Hi and welcome. I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder of PeopleProductive, and you are at another episode of Creating Cultures at Outperform. I'm here with my co-host, Terri Mays, a certified culture engineer. And today we're going to be talking about the dangers of social pressure at work. If you missed it, we did 3 episodes on how to create a culture where you actually outperform without burning people out. That was the last 3 episodes. We're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. You should join us. Today, we're going to be looking at social conformity. In particular, we're taking a look at the Asch conformity experiment. Solomon Asch conducted these many decades ago, but they're very telling as to the human need to conform in the workplace. And we'll share what this experiment was about, and we'll tell you what you need to be on guard against and what you should do in terms of your culture to prevent it. So, Tara, should we just get right into it?
I think we should. This one is a pretty good one, so.
Yeah, I think this is cool. So let me get in here to this tab, and we'll go right in here. So the Asch conformity experiment took place in a college. They got a group of people who volunteered for the experiment. We'll show you some of that. But in essence, the people in the room were shown a picture like this. You can see that there's a line on the left, 3 lines on the right, and they had to identify which of the 3 lines on the right matched the one on the left in the size. Interestingly, when they did this alone with the people, they would get 99% of them right. And let me share a little bit about the experiment.
All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2, 2, 2, 2,
2, 3,
3,
3,
3.
But on the 3rd trial, something happens.
2,
2, 2,
2, 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
Okay, so this is very telling. We just saw a person who basically lied to fit in. And that's what social pressure is, that the need to conform. And the experiment was really pretty amazing. So, 99% of the people get the data correct with no other people in the room. But when they gave this problem out, they found that they'd get the answer correct in about 2 of every 3 trials. So 75% of the people missed at least one correct answer just to go along with the group. So it shows that people are going to purposely conform to the environment. And so let's talk about this in the workplace, Tara. I mean, this is really important if you're a leader, right? You want to build a culture where people are actually telling the truth.
Yeah, it's extremely important. Conformity is really the enemy of innovation. So if you need to have people that feel free to think outside the box, they want to be able to come up with their own ideas, their own thoughts. They don't want to just go along to get along. Then you really do need to have an environment where creativity can flow freely. And in an environment where conformity is the norm and conformity is encouraged over individuality, it creates problems. And you see how in this experiment where people will just flat out lie just to go along with the group. And that, remember, we've talked about this many times, but we're all just people on the high school, in the high school cafeteria trying to find our place where we fit in. We're just trying to make sure that we can get along with people, that we're not rejected. We want the approval of others. And in some ways, there's a lot of deep-rooted respect for those that are in authority over us. So when people come to us and they ask us questions and we are in that setting where people are forced to conform, out of that respect for the authority, people will just go along and give the wrong answers. And this translates into incorrect reports. This translates into people not getting the information that they should get because people are hoarding or hiding information. They're controlling things. They're not really sharing the true state of affairs because they're afraid. They don't want to go against the grain. So these are really serious issues and implications from having this society of conformity within your workplace.
Yeah, and this happens in cultures where they don't have a set of values that people are living. If you have a culture that values candor and rewards it, you're going to have people who speak up and they're not going to go along. And you can see the danger in cultures where they have a lot of conformity, they don't innovate. We don't have that creative abrasion that you get when people come together that creates great ideas and breakthrough insights into things. You look at the Challenger disaster, Morton Thiokol, and NASA putting pressure on people to conform, the leaders eventually going along with it, even though the engineers said, do not launch. Those seals are not going to hold on the Challenger. It's too cold out. I mean, they had already had incredible trouble with these seals launched in perfect conditions. They knew that this thing was going to blow, and they went along to conform. And, you could see leaders could put a lot of pressure on people and organizations. And you want to have a culture where clearly you're getting, candor, other things, and you have people speaking up. Because it was interesting in that ASH conformity experiment, when they set it up so that there were two people who were giving the right answer, not just one. The minute you had a second person in that room who was, free to tell the truth, you only 5% of the time did they conform. Instead of having, in 3/4 of these trials, having, situations where people actually lied to fit in. So that's the power of having people who are willing to speak up and tell the truth, that diversity of thought and opinion, and valuing that. It really does matter. Honesty, candor, acceptance of other ideas. You've got to have a set of values that actually people are living, and it's good to have nonconformists, really. It's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. In a lot of ways, it's good for people to feel like they can be their authentic self. They can be an individual and still fit in, not have to just conform to what everybody else is doing. You want people to feel like they can be themselves. That really brings a lot of power to the room when people feel like they can be who they are. They can share their ideas without fear of isolation or ridicule, where people
Yep.
just, are making fun of them. When people feel comfortable and they feel like I can share what I really think, you may not always like what the person is saying, but a lot of times if you listen to what they're saying, if it's something different than what you think, there's something to learn there. There's something that you can pull out of what they're saying to make the organization better. So when people have differences of opinion, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And we have to change that way of thinking in our organizations so that we can see the differences of opinion as a way to bring us closer together and reveal things that we may not have noticed before. You bring a new person into an organization, and a lot of times those fresh eyes see things that people that have been
Yeah.
there for 20 years just don't see anymore. They used to see it, but as time goes on, you get kind of blind. I think about that commercial where I think it's a laundry detergent commercial, but it talks about how people are nose blind, where you can't smell it anymore because you got
Yeah.
stinky socks, and somebody walks in the room and all they can smell is the stinky socks. Well, you've
It's
been
really
sitting
true.
with stinky socks, and so
Oh,
your
yeah.
nose just goes blind to that. The same thing happens with organizations.
Yeah. I mean, there is science behind it. It's called selective filtering. Your body adapts to what's around you. Eventually, you look at and see what you're told to look at and see. So if everybody says, don't look over there, no one looks over there. You can see from the conformity experiment. So imagine 99% of the time alone, these people get the right answers. When he gets the 12 together and injects this other element, poor Terri. Terri will be back. You can see just momentary thing, but the power of this is that, we have 75% of the people giving a wrong answer to go along, right? And that's really powerful, but 99% of them will do it right. And that if there's a Confederate in the room who's giving right answers, even though the people don't know they're a Confederate, only 5% of the people end up giving the wrong answer in those studies. So this is really powerful. you absolutely have to build a culture where values like candor, acceptance, vulnerability, so important to have a vulnerable workplace where people could say, hey, you know what? You're right. I'm wrong. And that really, really matters. And how you feeling, Tara?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. So the weather here in Alabama is going crazy. One day we're at 39. The next day we're at 70. And so things have started blooming.
Oh, the pollen's getting you, huh?
Allergies are starting to take over. So I truly apologize
Oh,
to everyone for that loud coughing.
well, I'm glad you didn't conform and just try to stay here and suffer through the whole thing, right?
Right, right,
We're this is we run a good culture here. Terry can leave if she has to. It's not a problem.
right. And maybe our expert producer can clip that
Yeah.
part out for us.
Yeah. You never know. Hey, Terry, I think I'll bring up that conformity cartoon because
Yes.
this does say it all, right? When you take a look at it, this is actually one I bought years ago on cartoon stock. I've used it in a number of presentations, but here's two people sitting in an office talking about the hats, and the one guy says, hey, I don't know how it started either. All I know is that it's part of our corporate culture. If you walked in and everybody had a hat out on like that, you would want a hat like that.
That's
And
right.
it is just that powerful. And that's why this guy did a cartoon about it. This is relatively common knowledge, but it's been
And
proven.
it works positive and negative too.
Yes.
So you've got this situation where it's something kind of silly. But if you think about the number of times that kind of those unwritten rules that exist in an organization and people start to just conform to those unwritten rules and policies, every organization has them.
Oh, yeah.
Where people feel like there are certain things that they do, that they can do, that they can't do. Whether or not it's a real rule doesn't matter because people begin to conform. And then one person tells the next, tells the next, tells the next.
Yeah.
And that's how that culture gets embedded in the organization. Whether or not it was something that a leader actually said is really irrelevant as it starts to spread like wildfire.
Yeah. Do you ever hear about the U.S. Steel coal production report? It
No.
was the very important meeting with the board, and the CEO said, I need to know what the coal production was this week. And, this is apparently back in the 30s. I have no idea. And I assume this is true. I've read it a number of times, but the people said, look, it was an emergency rush. Let's get that coal production report out every week. Let's produce this thing. And in the 1960s, they were on a cost cutting thing and they started to evaluate every report and said, let's look at it and see why we need it. And they only needed this report one time. And some guy said, look, let's just produce this. They're going to come back for it. 30 years later, they're still doing this weekly reports and no one knows why. But that's exactly how these unwritten things happen.
Yeah.
You got to question stuff. You really do.
Yeah. And it really challenges the corporate culture, and it challenges, why are we doing this? Does it make sense? And is this an area where we can innovate? Is this an area where we might be able to automate the report so that people don't have to continue to produce it or stop producing it altogether?
Maybe we don't need it. Yeah.
Yeah. Use those resources to work on something else or allow that to be some extra time back in people's schedules. We all know that we're understaffed and overworked. We're all in that situation where we have more meetings than we can attend and physically be present for. We're double and triple booked sometimes. So we really do need to find areas and ways that we can get some time back into people's schedule.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in more, you can go out on YouTube. That's called the Ash Conformity Experiment. You can pull up the exact one I was watching there and sharing with you. Next week, we're going to cover another experiment. I didn't pick it out yet, but we're going to be doing a series of these. We went down this path once before, looking at actual experiments and talking about how they apply to the workplace culture, and leadership, because all of this is about leadership. You need to understand the tools you've been given to use. People are the tool, or the most important tool in every company. The more you know about social science, cognitive psychology, you don't have to be an expert on it. You just need to know that this is the way it works. This is the right level of knowledge. And this allows you to really understand why having certain cultural values and making sure they're shared by everybody, they're lived, everybody gets them, they know what they are, and they use them at work This is how you protect your culture. This is how you create a company that outperforms and beat the competition. Because that's what this is all about. This is about winning. And this is about you becoming the best version of you possible as a leader or an individual contributor. That's why people come to this channel. So, Terri, what do you think? Any parting words here?
So just make sure that you're doing your very best to make people feel like they don't have to conform to fit in. It really does make a huge difference when people can feel comfortable in their own skin, where they can share how they really feel about things, whether we like it or not. Sometimes we don't like it, sometimes we do. But people need to feel comfortable enough in the environment to know that they're not going to be penalized for saying things truthfully, honestly, and how they really feel. That is so critically important.
I think you nailed it. That is just so important. So listen, we're here live every Wednesday, 3:00 Eastern time. We have a great show. You can go to the YouTube channel. You can see all the prior shows on the human factors of leadership, on belonging, on all these different experiments that have taken place over time. Pretty fascinating stuff. All of it can be applied in the workplace. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we hope you can join us every week. And please subscribe to the People Productive channel. We'd love to have guests on there.
Yes. Bye for now.